Apple's Studio Display has a dreadful webcam, but thankfully I found a much better alternative. If you saw my review of the Apple Studio Display, you'll know that I was rather disappointed with the webcam, to put it mildly, along with lots of other people. It's just rubbish, bearing in mind how much you spend on that monitor. So, when Insta360 got in touch and asked if I fancied reviewing their Link webcam, I jumped at the chance. Now, this video isn't sponsored by Insta360 before anyone asks, but they did send me this for free and to keep, which was very nice of them. I'm very lucky to be in this position, but I'm glad they did because this thing is absolutely fantastic. The Insta360 Link is an AI-powered webcam, which sounds interesting straight away, and it's a little bit like, if you look at it, it looks a bit like the gimbal that you get on a lot of drones. It's like someone's chopped off the gimbal and put it on this little platform. Apart from that, it has some really impressive specs. It shoots up to 4K video at 30 frames per second via a pretty big 1/2-inch sensor. It's got an ISO range of between 100 and 3200. It has an f1.8 aperture and a 26mm focal length with autofocus. There's also a 4x digital zoom and support for HDR. And it does also include dual noise cancelling mics. And the star of the show is an AI tracking feature, which I mentioned earlier, which is all about this swivelly drone gimbally thing. It's not cheap. It costs £320 in the UK or $300 in the US, but don't click away yet because I know that adds quite a lot to your Studio Display price, but you don't have to have the Studio Display to use this. You can add this to any computer, any laptop, doesn't matter. For that money, I think you get quite a lot. As mentioned earlier, you can shoot both 4K and 1080p with this webcam, and because of that big 1/2-inch sensor and the f1.8 aperture, it means you can get lots and lots of light into this camera, which is very important as far as webcams are concerned, because it means in low light, this performs pretty well. I think both the 1080 and the 4K imagery looks really, really good. It's sharp, it's not oversaturated. I think the white balance is bang on, and there's none of that really odd smoothing that you get with the Studio Display webcam. In fact, I'm going to show you a comparison now between this, the Link, and the Studio Display. The exact same lighting conditions, it's the same footage basically. I've got both cameras running at the same time. It's a relatively dark room. There's not much natural light. There's some artificial light to the left of me. It looks dreadful on the Studio Display. I challenge anyone to tell me that the Studio Display in this example looks anywhere near as good as this Insta360 Link. So that is one thing that you're getting for your extra spend on this. It is more expensive than most webcams, but you're getting that much better image for it. A lot of webcams kind of boost the ISO, so they make the image very noisy, or they just do things to the image to try and brighten it up, and it never looks very good. But because of that big sensor and that big aperture, this works fantastically in pretty much any condition. It also focuses very, very quickly, as you can see here. So if you thrust something in front of the camera, like a lens cap or a phone or something, it will very quickly lock focus. Again, that's something which a lot of webcams struggle with, but the Link is brilliant. And it makes it very, very easy to quickly show your audience or the person that you're speaking to something, and then revert back to the focus on your face. And did I mention that you can shoot in both landscape and portrait? Yep, it does that as well. And the portrait mode would be fantastic if, for instance, you were doing lots of TikTok or other vertical video. It's very useful for that. So as a standard webcam, this is very, very good. It's expensive, but you do get what you're paying for with this. But its party trick is that AI tracking, which is really impressive. So unlike Apple's center stage technology, which is built into a lot of their new devices, this benefits from a camera that actually moves around. So whereas Apple uses very clever software to keep track of the subject, this does it with a moving head. It's really accurate as well. You can move around pretty quickly in the frame and it always keeps hold of you, or most of the time. I did manage to trick it on a couple of occasions, and there was one occasion where I had to double tap the Link to return it to the center. But let's be honest, who moves around like this idiot you're watching now while on a Zoom call? Not many people. The whole point of this tracking is just to keep you in frame as you move left and right and backwards and forwards while you're talking or presenting. And for that, it does a really good job. As for the noise cancelling mics, they do a good job as well. Okay, so this is the Insta360 Link mic. I think it sounds all right, actually. It's not a studio mic. It's not going to blow anything out of the water in that regard. But for webinars, for Zoom calls, I think it's pretty good. It's also worth mentioning that the Link has a 1/4" screw mount on the bottom of it. So if you want to place it to the left or to the right of your desk, rather than having it right in front of you, that's very, very useful. Oh, and when you've finished using the Link, it will automatically go into a privacy mode where the lens flips down like that, which is very nice. So we've established that it is a fantastic webcam and it has this brilliant AI tracking thing on top of it, but it goes a bit further than that. The Link has some very cool shooting modes. Firstly, there's desk view, which tilts the camera slightly towards the desk and then uses some software trickery to make it look like a kind of top-down shot. Now, Apple is doing something similar to this with iOS 16 and macOS Ventura, and the Link does suffer from the same kind of ET hands if you place them towards the bottom of the frame, but it's not bad in a pinch. You know, if you need to just do some kind of demonstration, if you have something flat, if it's something that you've written down or drawn, or just a very flat object, it works pretty well. There's also an overhead mode, which is designed to work with that tripod mount that I talked about earlier. So the idea is that you put this on a tripod. Insta360 sent me one of their mini tripods, which was quite a useful way to do this. But you put this on the tripod, angle it forward slightly, and then go into this overhead mode. And what that gives you is this proper top-down view of your desk. I can see this being super useful for product demonstrations or content creators who want a quick way of unboxing or showing off a product. I might even use it myself for that purpose. Lastly, there's a very unique feature which I've not seen before on any webcam, which involves these. Now, these are designed to be placed on a whiteboard. So you place all 4 of them in the 4 corners of your whiteboard. I haven't got a whiteboard to test this with, so I'm going to have to rely on the stock Insta360 footage, sorry. But the idea is that you put this on the whiteboard, all 4 of them on the whiteboard, and then you give the peace sign to your Insta360 Link. And when you've done that, it recognizes that it needs to look for these little stickers. So it scans behind you, spots your whiteboard, spots these, zooms in, and gives you this kind of, once again, I assume, an AI-powered view of your whiteboard. That is very, very cool. Like I say, I've not tried it myself, but I've seen other reviewers do demonstrations, and it looks like it works as Insta360 suggests it does. So for tutors, you know, for people doing coaching and that sort of stuff, if you're regularly using a whiteboard, the ability to kind of go like that and then have the camera zoom into your whiteboard is very handy. Now, you might be wondering how you control the Insta360 Link, and it's all done via a very simple app that you can download from Insta360's website. And just like all of the software they make, it's an absolute breeze to use. There's actually a whole bunch of camera settings you can tweak if you're that way inclined. So you can change the white balance, you can tweak the exposure, the brightness, all sorts of things. Although I did find that the auto settings for this work really well. And there's even a fully manual gimbal mode where you can turn off the AI tracking and basically use the software to position the camera exactly as you want it. You can zoom in, zoom out, and basically save presets. So if you have a certain view of your desk or something on your desk that you want to keep referring back to, you can save that as a position in the Insta360 Link app, and with one button, go straight back to it. Insta360 has used the AI stuff in this Link to enable gesture control. Now, there aren't many gestures to use at the moment, but those that are there are actually quite interesting. The first is the ability to enter and exit AI tracking mode by raising your hand. So you literally just put your hand up in front of the camera, wait about 2 seconds-ish for the blue light to flash. That then comes out of AI tracking mode. To turn it back on, you just do the same thing. You put your hand up, wait a couple of seconds, and the camera switches back to AI tracking. You can also adjust the zoom with a kind of strange finger in the air gesture like that. I found this a bit odd. The idea is that you kind of point up to make it zoom in and then lower your hand to make it zoom out. It was a bit temperamental, and I just think you look a bit odd during a call if you started doing that. And lastly, there's that peace sign to go into the whiteboard mode, which I mentioned earlier. So I think the gesture control is a really good start. It shows what this is capable of in terms of AI and all that sort of stuff. But I'd like to see more. And I have a feeling, I don't know, but I have a feeling we'll see more gestures added in the future. At least I hope we do. Let's not beat around the bush. The Insta360 is an expensive addition to the studio display, but if you have the budget, it's a fantastic combo to have that wonderful Apple 5K display and this amazing webcam. And it does solve the issues of Apple's terrible webcams. But don't forget, this Link can be used with any other computer or monitor combo. The question is, who on earth is this for? Given the price, I think the Link has a very specific audience. But I think if you're a teacher, a consultant, a trainer, a live streamer, or a coach, I think the Link would be a very good investment. That's exactly how I'm going to use this thing, so I will use it as a standard webcam. But next year, I'm starting a Medium Academy for people who want to become successful online writers. If that's you, click the link in the description. I'll put some details in there. This is going to be such a good way of presenting and doing the whole coaching thing. I can't wait to use it for that purpose. I absolutely love these products from Insta360. Please keep them coming. And speaking of Insta360, I recently checked out 2 of their other cameras. So to check out that video, keep watching.